Today on the show, it is that time of year again to go over our top 5 episodes of the year. Yeah, that's about all I got. I hope you guys enjoy. Go check out the full episodes if you haven't already. The links will be below in the description. Without much further to drag on, I'm your host, Sal Assante. This is the We The Patriots podcast. Hope you all enjoy. So, this year we had quite a few highlights. One being we hit our 100th episode earlier in the year. We also hit 100 subscribers earlier in the year, and things are, well, they're really making me want to continue this. So I cannot be more thankful to all of you. If you will be very kind about my little bit of bedhead that I got going on. Yeah, and I don't see why we don't just get right into this. Our top 5 episodes are going to be our most viewed and most interacted with. Most of that coincides anyways, but without any further ado, number 5 is episode 106, Entertainment's Downfall, Jokers, Sports, and Stale Movies. This was an episode that we discussed the poor culture that we have driven ourselves into in terms of entertainment, whether you're talking about movies, sports, or television shows, and it especially highlighted the allegation against the Impractical Jokers. So have a listen. Let's talk about movies. Why not, right? I would say at this point, quintessential movie provider, a movie maker in the United States has to be Disney. Not only someone who's tied to sports with their purchasing of ESPN Plus and their providing of that, but they provide a lot of different movies. They brought up a lot of different industry standards when it comes to movie production. Whether you're talking about Pixar, Marvel, Lucasfilm, Fox, all of these different things are under now that Disney umbrella. Them providing this and essentially overseeing all this, first of all, you see massive budget increases that don't necessarily lead into better content. And what they've resorted to in most cases is just endless remakes. It kind of gets to be a little bit ridiculous when you talk about the stage that the Marvel universe, which I never really was a super big fan of. I like the Avengers to a certain degree, but all the different spinoffs and trying to understand which different directions, I never really got into that. Whether you're talking about that or you're talking about all the Star Wars stuff that they did where, I'm sorry, but Star Wars is a classic. And even, for people my age, we had the original trilogy, which like people like my parents and even older generations were absolute fans of. And then they saw the follow-up trilogy that was supposed to actually be a prequel to the original trilogy. And they kind of thought it was horrendous that they being Lucasfilm actually went back and did that. And not only that, we could talk about those first 6 movies. They've made countless, I can't even name how many spinoffs, whether you talk about The Mandalorian or all the Drone Wars series. I don't even know the names, so don't come at me if I'm getting this wrong. My whole point being is that they kind of run out of original ideas. I'm talking about remaking every single one of the Disney princess movies and drilling it into oblivion. Beating the dead horse is not a good enough term because they've beaten it past death, past mutilation. It is just, they're massacring the original idea, in my opinion, of what Disney was meant to be. Really rare do you see a Disney movie coming out with original IP. And it's unfortunate to watch because, again, they are probably the quintessential movie provider in the United States at this time. And what it's become now, you're talking about like something like a live action remake of The Lion King. And in my opinion, why? The Lion King, I remember back watching the original Lion King movie countless number of times. Watching something like Finding Nemo, countless number of times. Something like Shrek, innumerable. The amount of times that I watched all of these movies is because it was original thought and fantastically well made in the first place. Now you're going to go remake these movies, not only remake or make sequels or something like that, but literally just go back and remake them with what they call live action. I just can't comprehend why this could be necessary. And this to me is taking away quite a bit of the value of a production company as sizable as Disney. Next up on the list at number 4, we had 132. Trump breaks the Republican Party. Now, this episode came out a few months ago when Trump was going through all of the motions of trying to be a stooge for Israel. He was blanking out the Epstein files, which are even still to this day extremely redacted, even though some things have come out. And yes, we discussed that and how the Republican Party was losing all of its momentum after a really historic win back in 2024. So have a listen to episode 132. what we would be conserving right now if we are true conservatives, which I think Trump has actually done a good job, is the crony capitalism that has existed in this country for quite some time now. The fact that as long as your friends are in high places, you're going to get great deals, you're going to have great business opportunities, and if you're on the wrong side of things, you're going to get crushed. And I think that's going to continue. As I can remember it now, granted, I'm very young, but as I can remember, it's been that case ever since Obama stepped into office, and it's going to continue to be that case for quite some time. You know, you see all of the different deals that Trump is willing to do as long as whoever he's dealing with, whether it be like an NFL owner, someone with the MLB, someone in fashion, movie maker, as long as they're on Trump's side verbally, then that's fine by him. And he's going to push that candidate. He's going to push that person, or he's going to get the deal for that executive. He's going to make sure that the state spends the money on the stadium that the pro sports wants. But if you're on that other side, you're just going to get crushed. And, you know, when the boot falls on the other foot, like I like to say a lot, when Trump is no longer in power, well, we're only going to have to wait and see. You know, it's like that thing that came out with the AI surveillance, the Palantir organization. They came out with that, and it's getting forwarded in the upper echelons of the politicians in the United States. All I can think of is, okay, well, I'm not really okay with anyone having it, but I bet a bunch of people are okay as long as it's Trump running it. What happens with the next one? Well, we're going to have to wait and see on a lot of those things. The levers of power that Trump is now exuding, they're so tremendously influential. And if we are not really keeping our eyes out for someone who's going to reduce the power that the government has, and especially the executive branch, we're going to continue to see our lives get swallowed up and sold up to the highest bidder, whoever is going to help out those in power the most and whoever their buddies are. Next up at number 3, we have episode 96, Trump's first week, Musk moves, and PR and politics. So this episode here, obviously, we were talking about Trump's first week in office, but also when Elon Musk was out on the stage, gave that alleged Nazi salute or Roman salute, depending on what side you wanted to go on, and was also the beginning of Elon Musk being removed from the public image of Trump White House. So go have a listen over here to the clip of episode 96.
I know we kind of already talked about removing remote work from federal employees, but I do want to talk about the downstream effect that could have in terms of getting rid of remote work across the country. That starts to be the case, and that starts to go forward. Then I think that we're actually heading in a pretty good direction. Now, there's something to be said about how a lot of us, in terms of Americans, talking about Americans, 3 computers, very small jobs. Sometimes all we did was manage our small little farm that either us or maybe us plus a couple families around us, just enough to stay afloat in this country. And how that has now, with essentially our entire country on average is relying on something like a supermarket in order to feed themselves. They are not involved in farming their own food whatsoever. And when you talk about that, or people who are removed from a big conversation that I would say is somewhat controversial, would be saying, you know, how people feel about something for their own food, right? But I think it all kind of ties back to something like a remote work. If you're not going to participate in that workforce, or you're not going to be in person with the people that you work with, you're not going to have to, you know, get home. There's pros and negatives, pros and cons to each side of things. But I would say on the whole, if we start getting away from this idea that you could just work from home, and to be honest, if we're all honest, the people that stayed home from work and taking advantage of the system, a good lot of them were not really doing the amount of work that they knew they had to do. They were taking advantage of this, being behind a screen all day and just doing the bare minimum in order to stay hired, stay employed. And if that's the case, I think it would be good to actually start getting the national public opinion on remote work and kind of putting it in a little bit of a negative stance, because I am of the opinion, and this does not mean that I'm 100% right. I see faults in a lot of my opinions, but I am of the opinion that remote work is, in most cases, is a little bit ridiculous. Now, I don't think that we all need to go band together in a high-rise office in New York City and get together like canned sardines. That's not what I'm saying. Participating in a workforce, participating in a work environment, and having that work environment grow, I think is something that we should be striving for as Americans, and not the opposite. So just my thought on some of that.
Coming in at number 2, this one was a fun one to do and quite a lot of interaction here, so I appreciate you. Go get a look at this episode if you have not, because this has become the reality. And that is episode number 119, Will New York City's Socialist Mayor Ruin America? Episode 119. Now, when it comes to just general affordability, not rent, the big proposal coming from Amdani's website is city-owned grocery stores. This is where we get into some of the communism, socialism critiques. And I gotta be honest, I don't disagree with those critiques. According to his website, quote, food prices are out of control. Nearly 9 in 10 New Yorkers say the cost of groceries is rising faster than their income. Only the very wealthiest aren't feeling squeezed at the register. As mayor, Zoran will create a network of city-owned grocery stores focused on keeping prices low, not making a profit. Without having to pay rent or property taxes, they will reduce overhead and pass on savings to shoppers. They will buy and sell at wholesale prices, centralize warehousing and distribution, and partner with local neighborhoods on products and sourcing. End quote. There's a little bit more on here, but I just got to be honest. Any state-controlled anything usually goes terribly. Whether you're talking about fixing the roads, how about the roads in New York City? I don't see a mention of this anywhere on this whole website. Fixing the roads, fixing the crumbling infrastructure, cleaning up the, for lack of a better word, the bums all in and around the public transport. I think that this is far more, it should be far higher on the agenda, I would say, than a city-owned grocery store. First, you're not going to get producers to produce food without them making a profit, so I can't really gather how that's even going to be possible. And second, you're just going to allow this one type of business to not pay rent, not have overhead here. That just seems like you are anti-competition and anti-American in a way. Now, I'm not saying that anti-American or at least anti-conservative American is always bad. I do think that government ownership, especially of the food supply, is not great. As we could see, we have become one of the most unhealthy nations in the world, and we spend a lot of our money on food. You would think that we had some better options, and it does not seem that this is lending into that possibility. We'll see. I don't think that this will be able to be implemented, but if it does, we will see. I do not think it's going to have a very good effect, and if anything, I think price controls are going to lead to the same problems that they always do, whether you're talking about a shortage of supply, whether you're talking about the prices not being as good as we all thought, or just an inability to actually purchase what you want and being forced to purchase food that is not what you would actually want to go to the grocery store for. I think you're going to see a lot of these issues if this is implemented. We will have 119.
And coming in at our top spot this year, this episode was crazy to me because it was the last real episode that we did just about a week ago. Episode 137, 2A Under Siege, How Gun Control Disarms Patriots and Invites Tyranny. Yeah, I mean, this is the second most popular episode that We The Patriots has ever had. It was highly viewed. It was highly interacted with. It was well. And yeah, I'm a little surprised that this is the one that got there. But at the end of the day, when we're talking about tyranny, it is good to get all the facts in. And even I didn't get everything right. Go have a listen to episode 137. Let me know what you think. And go take a look at all these episodes if you haven't seen them already. So
the real main reason, to me at least, is that it protects the First Amendment. And I know the First Amendment is something that we speak about quite constantly on this show here, but I just wanted to detail it. I know I've done this before, but just read it out for all of you so that way you have it in your head. So the First Amendment reads, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or of the right of the people to peaceably assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Now, the Second Amendment reads, a well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So, why do I think that the Second Amendment is important to protect the First? Well, with no ability of the citizens to defend themselves against a tyrannical government, there is no way to have free speech. You can write it down on a piece of paper, much like all of our laws today, but what is the enforcement? Well, the enforcement comes from the people who have a right to bear arms, and not the funny meme where you see the right to having bear arms like the animal. No, quite literally to own weapons. And that ability in and of itself is a check on the government for overreaching its power. Now, the Second Amendment does protect that First Amendment, of course, but it also does a lot of other things. Number one, as written in there, the right of the people to have a militia is very important. That means that the government itself is not wholly responsible for defending the homeland. And that goes with, of course, outside threats, but it also quite clearly, even denoted in the text itself, is talking about defending itself from a tyrannical government of its own making, right? So if our government was to be going out of its way to tyrannize its own citizens, well, the ability of the citizens to own and operate firearms at their free will is a check on that. And I think that it's got to be kept in mind by all of us, we the people here, that we have that right and we should be exercising it.
I just wanted to say before we get into the new year, I could not again thank you guys. You make doing these shows and take my time getting the research in worth it. It has been absolutely you, and hopefully next year we see more strides. Love to see our community grow even more. Love to be pushing that boundary in the next couple of years of 1,000 subscribers, getting more consistent listens on my shows. You guys tell me what you want to hear about. I have no problem doing the research. I have no issue trying to dig more on stuff that I'm not as keen to, whether that is more news stuff, whether that's on the general topics as I have been and will continue to do for the next few weeks, or whether you're talking about, stuff that's out there, stuff that's wild. Like if you want to hear why Erica Kirk is shaking her ass to pyrotechnics about her supposedly grieving stage with her now passed away husband, Charlie Kirk, you want to hear stuff about that. You want to hear stuff about the COVID stuff. Now that stuff is not seemingly getting pulled off of YouTube left and right, I have no problem talking about that, even though that's what almost got us banned back in 2020 and 2021. So with all that said, again, I cannot thank you guys enough. I hope you have a wonderful new year, and I hope that 2026 brings all great things for all of you out there and for your loved ones as well. With all that said, I'm signing off for 2025, and we'll be reigning in the new year with my loved ones as well. And I hope you get to do the same. I will see you all next year for the Corny Dad Joke. Peace out.
I want to be something, not nothing. Trapped inside my dream and I'm running away from these demons. But the feeling's so good, I'ma keep dreaming.